and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How are you?
Pretty good weekend overall. Can't complain too much. How about you? Did you get a chance to get outside today a little bit?
Yeah, my wife and I took our son to the zoo, and we met her parents there, and her sister came too. So it was kind of a big outing, but it was a great morning. And then met my own dad and brother for lunch downtown, and then took transit back home from there, and had a pretty relaxing afternoon and evening other than that. Had some soccer on in the background, but pretty great weekend. Can't make too many complaints about it, for sure.
Good. Let's get into our weekend recap episode. We typically do these episodes where we run through what happened to the Calgary teams on the weekend. We're going to talk about the Wild and their match in Montreal, Cavalry and their match in Ottawa, and then a whole bunch of games involving the Dinos and the Cougars and the Trojans as well.
Definitely lots of soccer on this weekend, as per usual. Let's dive into it.
Hey, y'all, this is Jorian Bauckham, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Okay, Scott, Calgary Wild were playing their last away match of the season, and it was in Montreal. And, after a lengthy losing streak, the Wild won in style on the road, didn't they?
Yeah, they're back in the win column. This was an exciting game. Ended up being just for pride, as the Wild were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs just a few hours later, thanks to Vancouver Rise's results. But great outing for the Wild against a tough Montreal team. They pulled out the 2-0 win against all odds, I would say. And honestly, they probably deserved it. This was a strong showing from the Wild, as strong as we've seen this team probably this year.
That really shows that there's some character on this team, because it would be very easy to give up at this point in the season, I would think, for them. So went out to Montreal and put up this much of a fight and then got the 3 points. That's kudos to them.
Yeah. And Jason, I want to talk about something, because a few episodes ago we were discussing the Wild's woes and how they always try to match their opponent's quality, and how they needed to, from our vantage point, learn how to just play defensively, shut up shop, put a lot of players behind the ball, and then try to score on the counter. And I don't know if they listened, but they definitely played that way in Montreal. This is a game that Montreal had more of the ball, a lot more chances, but the Wild defended resolutely. And when they did win possession back, they were very direct. They played Route 1 football, as it's known. And their second goal especially was basically like that goal that we've talked about a few times that SAIT Trojans scored, where it was just a long ball pumped forward from the back over the top, and then she gets the ball first and makes the goal happen. That was kind of what happened on Jorian Bauckham's goal.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing when I watched that. I think the SAIT Trojans ball, the ball was a little bit more aloft, but the concept was the same. And, Miggy Doherty-Howard got the first goal, and that was just an example of just persistence and working hard in front of the net. And then, the second goal was a nice pass, and then a nice effort by Jorian Bauckham to open her account with the Wild.
Yeah, her first goal for the team, and I think it was her 9th or 10th game. So good to get that monkey off of her back. Overall, I will say that I think Bauckham's goal could have been called back. She definitely did knock her defender over on this play, but the whistle wasn't blown, and she had a really nice finish, bottom left corner. Great to see from her. I think that's the kind of thing Wild fans were hoping to see from, a high-profile American signing with NWSL experience. It has taken her a while to get her first goal. Hopefully it's not her last goal, because there's still a couple of games left.
Absolutely. I did not watch this entire match. I know you did, though. And I know one thing that you had mentioned is Steph Vukovic really had a pretty good game against Montreal.
Absolutely. Yeah. She, I don't know if she ultimately got player of the game or not, but in my opinion, she should have if she didn't. I think she foiled 3 or 4 breakaways from Montreal. And she had one of her strongest games that I can recall. And she's had some tough games in the recent past. Obviously, a 6-0 loss followed by a 5-0 loss not that long ago. But she seems to put that past her, because she really was impressive in this one. And I don't imagine that Calgary's had too many clean sheets, but this was a deserved one.
So the Wild will be back in action on the weekend. They have still, is it 2 or 3 games left, I think, at home before the season ends. I think it's actually 3.
Yeah, they've played 22 games in a 25-game season. So 3 games left, all at home. So still a couple of chances to check the team out.
Hi, this is Ali Musi, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Jason, I have to confess I didn't watch Cavalry this weekend. It was on at pretty much the same time as the Wild game. I did try to check out the Cavalry game, but for whatever reason, it's not on Fubo this weekend. So wasn't able to watch it, but I did check out the highlights. A 3-0 loss on the road to Atletico Ottawa. From what I could tell, though, 3-0 is kind of being generous. I didn't think this looked like a 3-0 game.
Cavalry did not deserve to win this game. Ottawa deserves the 3 points. But that being said, Cavalry didn't look that bad in this game. Like they, I think in the final stats, they had a higher XG than Ottawa, but like they played reasonably well. When the opportunities arose, Ottawa got their chances and did well. Like the first goal, which, obviously changes the complexion of a game no matter what. It was a really bad mistake by Levi Lang, and he gave up the ball, and he maybe wasn't exactly expecting getting that ball from Tobias Warshevsky. But that being said, he did make a bit of a mess of it. And Sam Salter right now, he just seems like every time he gets a whiff of being close to the goal, he's putting into the back of the net. And that's exactly what happened here. He just took that ball away and scored. And then 1-0 for Ottawa. And then the goals later on were just like also opportunistic goals.
Yeah, I think there was a case of Cavalry pressing for the equalizer because both of Ottawa's second half goals came, I think, between the 70th and the 80th minute. So Cavalry was pressing for the equalizer, and they had a couple of chances. I think there was a play where Marco Carducci made a great save off of a Sam Salter shot, and then Cavalry countered, and I can't remember who it was with the final chance. It may have been Ali Musi, but it just went wide. And, at that point, it would have been 1-1 shortly after the hour mark. Completely different outcome, potentially. But, yeah, obviously, Ottawa has been very clinical this season. They have the league's top scorer in Sam Salter, and then they have weapons like Balu Tabla, who showed his quality at the end of the match with a brace. When I saw the results, I thought, that must have been a pretty bad performance. But based on the highlights, it definitely seems like Cavalry were in the game up until the 75th minute, and then once it was 3-0, obviously their heads dropped. But interesting that they did get a penalty at the end. Didn't even think it was that bad of a penalty, to be honest. I just think that Kanija Elva kind of telegraphed where he was shooting it a little bit too much, but Ingham did well to get down low and parry that ball away.
So now Cavalry is mathematically unable to finish second. So the best that they can hope for right now is third, and they're still in a very good position to get third. They're currently in that spot, and with 3 games left, they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, Cavalry 3 points ahead of York. Yeah, 3 games left for Cavalry, and 2 of their last 3 opponents are against teams at the bottom of the standings, those being Pacific and Vancouver, who I believe are both eliminated from playoffs mathematically already. But the game that I think that everyone will have their eyes on is that October 10th duel with Forge at Atco Field.
That'll be interesting, and it looks like the way it's shaping up for Forge, it's going to matter for them if they want to get first place. So it's not going to be a game where they'll be coming in lightly, just playing it out until the playoffs. I do believe also there might be a bit of scoreboard watching this upcoming weekend, because I believe York and Halifax play each other. I don't know what time, and I can't remember where it is, but that game will definitely have some pretty significant implications on who will still be fighting for that third spot.
Yeah, and that game is at noon on Saturday, October 4th. You know what is disappointing about not being able to finish top 2 is that means that the final will not be at Atco Field again. So
that's right.
Cavalry are to repeat as PL playoff champions, they'll have to win on the road in the final at either Ottawa or Forge.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be easy this year. I think, those 2 teams have had really good seasons, and I think it's certainly in Cavalry's locker to be able to do it. But if you had to handicap it, like those other 2 teams are, I'd say, above them overall. If you were neutral trying to decide who's going to win, I'd say that those two are still going to be first two on your list.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got Forge have lost 2 games all season. They've conceded 20 goals in 25 games. And then Atletico, 2 losses in 25 games this season, and they have scored 50 goals. So those two teams have been quite a bit ahead of Cavalry overall this year. But yeah, obviously playoffs are playoffs. And, if you find an extra gear, who knows what can happen.
Hi, this is Anton Minty, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So, Jason, we were both quite surprised by a couple of results in U Sports this weekend. Let's talk about the Dinos men losing both of their games to Edmonton opponents quite unexpectedly, particularly Sunday's game. But before we get to that one, let's mention that on Saturday they lost to the University of Alberta Golden Bears 3-0, which I think was a bit of an eyebrow raiser.
Yeah, the Golden Bears are a good team. They're ranked 16th nationally, and the Dinos are ranked 10th nationally. And you're playing, in Edmonton on their home field. So the idea that the Dinos could lose this game probably wasn't completely like it was far from a sure 3 points for the Dinos. But the fact they lost 3-0, we don't have all the details necessarily of what happened, but 3-0 sounds like, they were beaten quite definitively.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's the same result that Cavalry lost by, and we've already talked about how that didn't feel like a 3-0 game. But regardless, it's a heavy defeat considering Dinos came into this in first place. And then today, being Sunday, they surrendered their first place in the standings with a very surprising result, that being a 1-0 loss to the MacEwan Griffins for MacEwan's first win of the season.
Yeah, if you want to look at the national rankings, I kind of like looking at them. I think there's something like 52 teams in men's soccer and U Sports, something like that. Anyway, MacEwan is ranked 46. So, and as you said, they hadn't won a game all season. So, yeah, this is, even though this was on the road, this was, I think, a shocking result.
Yeah. MacEwan is 1-7-3 this year. So 1 win, 7 losses, and 3 draws. And Calgary coming into that with 7-3 record. And then, to lose 1-0. And I read the recap of the game. It sounds like Calgary outshot MacEwan and had a lot of the ball. It was just a case of not being able to convert. Yeah, what a win for MacEwan.
For sure. And then the MRU Cougars were also up in Edmonton, and they had a very successful weekend. They won both of their matches.
Yeah, and didn't concede a goal. They beat MacEwan 2-0 with goals from Hansian Ryu and then Kwasi Oteng Frimpong. And then on Sunday, they beat Alberta with a goal from Josh Flaxman for a 1-0 win. Those 6 points mean that the Cougars overtake the Dinos for first place in the Prairies division. And right now they have a 6-1-4 record. I think that puts them 1 or 2 points ahead of the Dinos with just a couple of games left this season.
Yeah, really impressive weekend for the Cougars. So let's move over and talk about the women's division. And a couple of teams came to Calgary this weekend to play the Cougars and the Dinos. The Dinos faced the University of Manitoba Bisons twice this weekend.
Yeah, and not too surprisingly, they maintained their almost perfect start to the 2025 season with a 3-0 win on Friday night. Goals coming from Grace Moore, Sarah Donnick, and Aislinn Phillips. And following up with a 2-0 win on Saturday with Isabella De Palma scoring a brace. I feel like she always scores in bunches. I don't know if that's just my observancy bias or whatever it's called, but it feels like whenever she scores a second one in the same game. But yeah, that means the Dinos I think they have 9 wins and a draw, and they are unbeaten in the first 10 games of the season.
Yeah, so a couple solid wins for the Dinos. And then the Mount Royal Cougars women's team, they also had a pretty good weekend as well against the Lethbridge Pronghorns.
Yeah, they won 4-1 on Saturday. Annalisa Galvez scored 2, and then Tamara Jurasic and Jordan Grundle also made it onto the scoreboard. And then on Sunday in the follow-up game, a little bit closer this time, MRU winning 2-1 off of a goal from Madeline Albert, and then an own goal from the Pronghorns.
Seems like the Pronghorns are having a bit of a rough year. We had Pronghorns head coach and also with the Blizzard, Cedric Beauvon. We interviewed him during the summertime, and I think he's got a lot of rebuilding work there to do to get that program back going again.
Definitely. They only have 1 point from their first 10 games, 9 losses and a draw, still searching for their first win. They and Manitoba are in the basement of Prairie Division, and it doesn't seem like they will be moving up the table because Regina, who are the team third from bottom, are on 10 points. Speaking of the table, Dinos and Cougars are still leading the way, and that strong weekend from Mount Royal keeps them within 3 points of the Dinos. They're 8-1-1 at the moment, Mount Royal, for 25 points, and then Calgary is, as mentioned, 9-0-1 for 28. Let's finish by talking about the SAIT Trojans, as we often do on these Sunday recaps. The men's team had a really big battle with Medicine Hat, 2 teams ranked in the top 5 nationally, or 10. One of those 2 teams is expected to win the division, but a tough one for SAIT. They lose 2-1 to Medicine.
I think in the last episode, I made a comment about we didn't really know why Medicine Hat was so highly ranked. They, historically haven't been this massive powerhouse, and they had won their games, but they were ranked like 4th nationally, I think a week or 2 ago. And we were kind of scratching our heads about how that happened, but clearly their ranking is deserved. They were playing to SAIT. They won the match, huge match, and they're now alone in first place in the South Division.
Perfect record still?
Medicine Hat is 5-0 and SAIT is 5-1. So even though they technically both have, I guess, 15 points, the Rattlers have a game in hand, and they still have an undefeated record while SAIT does not.
Mm-hmm. And then SAIT did rally back quite well from that setback to win 3-0 the following day against the Olds Broncos, with Amadelo Chamoun, Ezra Johannes, and Robert Woodruff Brown scoring the goals.
I believe Robert Woodruff Brown has started to create some distance for himself in the Golden Boot race in the ACAC. I didn't actually check in advance before we recorded, but I do know that he was in first place even before Sunday's action, and he getting another goal, I think, helped his cause as well.
For sure. And he scored the Trojans goal against Medicine Hat on Saturday. But Ezra Johannes, another name we continue to see on the score sheet this season.
Definitely, yeah. His name has been there on there, not quite as much as Brown's, but pretty close.
Quickly, we'll mention that the SAIT women's team had another perfect weekend, 6 points from their 2 games. In their match against Medicine Hat on Saturday, they ran out 6-0 winners with goals from Sophia Spruill, who got a brace, Isabel Vega, who got a brace, Rachel O'Leary, and then Tiona Pate.
And then they went up to Olds on Sunday, and they won 3-1. They actually conceded a goal, which they don't do very often. And Amy Fallows, Gabby Cavaza, and Sage Joseph scored the goals for the Trojans.
So that win keeps the SAIT women's with a perfect record. They're currently 7-0, and they are in first place in the South.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there to buy Scott's book. It's called Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of pro soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as Twitter or Instagram or Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.